glasses on just so I can double check these primers. Yeah, they're still nice and curved. Now, the load I'm using, as I've said, I've been using Reloader 22 powder. It seems to work really well in the 7mm. This is Norma brass with Magnum primers. This is the only rifles, the 7mm, that I actually do use, well actually neck turn, and then I use a collet die with 1.5 hour neck tension. I may have to go the next size down collet die just to tighten that up a little bit. Probably for a hunting round, you probably want to be around the 2 to 3 thou of neck tension, but I'll see how it goes. If any of my bullets slip while I'm actually in hunting situation, I don't think they will, because it's but I've just got to be aware of that, because originally I set it up for my long range rig, where the rifle was primarily going to be sitting on the ground. It's not going to be transporting the ammunition in your pocket or anything like a normal hunting situation. So anyway, the point of impact is very close to where I'd say it's going to need to be. That target's at 100 yards. I think I need to be around the 33mm. I'll have to double check about the 33mm high at 100 yards to get a 200 yard zero, because that's where I will set up the ballistic turret in the end at 200 yard zero and then go from there. So I'm just going to let this cool down another sort of 5-10 minutes. After this, I don't know if I will clean it. Sort of sometimes when you clean your rifle and then you shoot a group after it, you think, oh, you know, does that first shot shoot slightly different on a clean barrel where the other two is going to be on a sort of a fouled barrel? So I think I'm going to leave it uncleaned for at least the next half a dozen shots, and then I'll give it a good clean, and then I'll, if I can find a group that shoots well, we'll go from there as far as starting to dial the distance up a little bit, do some calculations. Anyway, the rifle shoots well, it hasn't fallen to pieces. My bedding job, which was the first time I've actually used marine tex, which is what's recommended by Kiwi Composites. And if you want to have a look at how they bed their stocks or how they recommend to do, I do it slightly different, but I'll put a link in the description so you can have a look at their video on actually bedding their stocks with marine tex. Anyway, so let it cool, and hopefully I can start dialing this in a little bit more. Well, I've just fired off the last group, 66.6 grains of RE22 behind the ELDX, and they're starting to tighten up, but I'm noticing it's all left to right. Now, the wind, yes, it has been gusting up, probably up to about 10 mile an hour on that run, and yeah, possibly I should move where I am, but I've got to shoot in real world situations, and there's probably, look, if there was 1/4 inch in movement with the wind at that distance with these projectiles, I'll be surprised. I think it's a little bit more of my technique. For hunting situation, that's still well and truly acceptable, but I would like to perfect it a bit more. Again, I think it's more of a matter of me perfecting this rifle. It is reasonably lively the more you shoot it. I've got to get used to the trigger. I may have to adjust it a little bit more. It's pretty good. I think there's a fraction of creep though, just in the unset position. So you can test it all you want when you're at the bench and whatever, but when you actually start to zero in on a target and just slowly load up the trigger, that's when you really notice it. So I'm about to start to fire the 67 grains, and I'll be wrapped if these sort of group well. I'm just going to have to make sure now I give it my best. That's 2 shots now for the 67 grain load. Now the pressure's on because those two are just about touching. So 2 shot groups fine by me. Yeah, I'm getting a bit of inconsistent readings with me chrony. It could be where I've got it though too, under the, it's sort of getting in a bit of dappled shade there, so it gets a bit of variation. But its first one I got was around 3008, 3000, yeah, I think 3008. Then the second one was 3080, and I don't think there's normally that much variation. I'm just watching the sun go across. It's just, my cranie's just on the edge of the shade there, and I'm sort of limited with the lead for the for my iPhone here, so and that usually designates my distance. It's usually about 10 to 15 feet. So look, velocities I can sort of recalculate and that later on. Getting the right load at the moment is obviously my priority, and to be honest with you, it's looking like the 67 grains. Even if I get one now that's bad, I still think if I can put 2 shots that close first up, things are going to be in a bit of trouble. So I'll do one more shot. We have a winner, 67 grains, RE22 behind the 162 grain ELDX. I knew the rifle would shoot great. And it's funny, you know, I know I'm probably getting better with shooting it as I go along. And in all fairness, now I've probably fired the best part of 20 rounds, and the shoulder's starting to get a little bit touchy, but I tell you what, it's a lot better than I expected. It's lively, but it's a shooter, a real good shooter. That's just clover leafed 3 holes there. And look, I'm not sold on the velocities. I'd say it's somewhere around the 3050 feet a second, which is moving along, and not as quick as the Rough Tech, but that's got the longer barrel, and I'd expect to get a high velocity. But either way, it's going to be a deadly rig. Now I've just got to dial in some distances, which I'll do. I think I've still got about another half a dozen or so loaded rounds at that charge. So I'm going to dial in a few distances and start doing what I normally do, and that's shoot not at paper targets.